on the show. Bram is one of the co-founders at Kea Company, which is an Analyst Relations, and the founder of Sigma, Executive Advisors. He has been active in the IT and research industry for over 22 years. He started at 17, and for the first 10 years, he worked internationally for big corporates like Dell and Gartner Research. After his period at Gartner, he came up with the idea of assisting tech companies with outsourced analyst relations and started Kea Company with fellow industry veterans. For the past 12 years, he has been active as an entrepreneur for Kea and Sigma, assisting and advising startups and scale-ups. He works with their founders and leadership teams on sales, operations, and marketing, also known as Analyst Relations, to support tech companies to get on the radar screen of industry analysts. Bram is a Harvard Kennedy alumni, and next to his daily activities, he advises on several global climate tech mentorship programs. Welcome to the show, Bram.
Thank you very much for having me.
It's actually quite amazing. We have a very similar background. I have an IT background. Yeah, I'm also in business for almost 25 years now. I work for big companies as a consultant initially, and I'm also a mentor. I'm also focused helping startups. So, hey, I'm looking forward for this to this conversation. It'll be awesome.
Likewise.
So maybe you can tell us a bit about your story. I mean, you started, when I look at your profile, you started at a big corporate at Dell, basically as an account executive, and then went through Gartner, started work for different startups, and then started Kea. So
yeah, it's a lot for people to get through. In a nutshell, school was not at that point in my life a thing that I had a lot of ambition for. That also came because back in the day, and I mean mid-90s, you had these tests that you made at school, and basically it's kind of a moment in time. It's not like certain activities that currently happen where you get multiple years and people get kind of an idea what you're capable of. It's more like, hey, you can't sit still. You are always doing other stuff that is not really focused on. So maybe you should do something that, gives you that kind of stability where you can run around, etc. So basically the first 5-6 years of my higher education were literally a waste of time for me personally. But, you get your diploma. And the moment I could sign out legally based on the Dutch law, I drew up the letter, drove to school, and literally slipped that through to the person who was responsible for the admin. And I said, have a nice day, and until I never see you again. And that was basically the time where my career started at the age of 7. And of course, that was in a period, so around the year of 2000, where, and those are my words, but it's literally true because it happened to me, everyone with a heartbeat got, a job. And that was nice for me because basically, I had not that much knowledge. I could literally just tie my shoelaces and say thank you and know how to use knife and fork. But at 17, you just do not have that experience that people would, normally look for. But I came past a recruiter who had a very interesting life of his own, became a dear mentor of mine throughout the years. We are still in contact after 22 years. But the fun part there was he was like, he picked up the phone, he saw what I was probably capable of to some extent, did a few phone calls, got a few introductions. At a certain time in 2000, I ended up at an internet service provider, a B2B internet service provider. It was literally everything I always wanted.
It was a crazy time, no? I mean,
it was nuts.
Yeah, I always say everyone who could spell IT could get a job. Yeah, I mean, a high-paid job.
Absolutely, yeah.
They had so many positions lined up I could choose from in the same age almost as you were.
Yeah, and it was beautiful. It was beautiful because there was a lot of budget for learning, a lot of time to learn as well, because there was a lot of people with different backgrounds that got hired left, right, and center. I mean, the hunt for talent back then was just like, it was just, I can pay more than you, so just wheel these people in. So I was surrounded with extremely clever people, and that, of course, shapes you into the person that you become later on, because these were all high-end engineers, people that had many degrees in different backgrounds, and that all fuses together because, you all live the same 80-hour work weeks back then, and it was just nuts. But I was living at home. I was earning a decent amount of money. I didn't have any rent. I get half stock. And then at a certain period, you just, you have to be lucky as well. I mean, a line throughout my career has to do with luck, has to do with meeting the right people, has to do with, I mean, if you would get from school in 6 months from now with a degree, maybe the world will look completely different, and maybe it's not so easy to get a job. But not everything comes down to sheer will and education. It all comes down to, a bit of luck and a bit of being at the right time, at the right, place at the right moment, whatever you want to call it. But that happened to me. So, and after that, I wanted to learn as much as possible. So from the internet industry, I went working for the guy who got me the job, and basically he had a recruitment agency. So I worked there a bunch of years, had a lot of fun because people are really my thing. And of course, focused on getting people a job in IT because that's what I have had experienced, and I wanted to give back a little bit as well. Plus, I had the knowledge about what technical skills you needed to actually perform the job. And then at a certain point, I went back to work for the guy who hired me at the internet service provider. He moved to Dell, and I started working for him. And this is how my career has always evolved. When I went to Gartner, it was because I had good relationships with people who used to work at Dell and moved to Gartner. And at Gartner, basically, I had a great time internationally, first time abroad full time, worked in England. That is kind of an experience on its own, moving internationally, living abroad, taking care of all the silly things that come for someone who has not lived in the UK before. It's fascinating. It's a great country to call your second home, no doubt about it. But that also gave me the idea to be more entrepreneurial. And that brought me to basically opening up shop with Kea Company down the road. That idea came out of my experience at Gartner. So in a nutshell, the first 10-ish years, I've worked at companies where I was, just there. I assisted the bigger corporations. And at a certain time in my life, I had enough personally to understand what I wanted to achieve without that net in the back and without those people and that environment. And I started on my own. And there you push into all your experiences, and basically you learn even more because now you have to do everything yourself, from accountancy to cleaning the toilet.
Exactly. Yeah.
It doesn't really matter, but it's a different experience. But it's one that I have no doubt we will dive a little bit deeper in down this chat.
Yeah, amazing history. I can really see myself there. I mean, I entered the market almost at the same time. Remember exactly the year 2K. Big IT projects. Everyone was afraid that the world was falling apart. I remember working at, I think, Deutsche Bank at this time as a consultant and doing night shifts, going to the New Year's Eve party, coming back to the office, checking systems. And it was a crazy, crazy time. Yeah. And,
Happy days.
We learned a lot. We got these jobs, and I always say, hey, even if you don't know if you know how to learn it, go for it. And then you can only grow.
Yeah, it's a mentality, a mindset thing as well. But what I've learned down the road is that there's a lot of things that I would never do again that I did back then, because I mean, taking care of yourself, like get enough sleep, healthy food and all of that stuff, that just disappeared in the first 5 years of my existence, because you would just go, and it was always something to do. But you learn that down the road that is not something that you can do for another 20 years. And you can, of course, but then unfortunately, at least on my end, there are many people that are no longer amongst us because they felt that was the only way to do their job. And that is, of course, something that we'll probably dive into a little bit as well. My biggest learning is that learn from all the good stuff, but also learn from the things that didn't work out, and apply that, but also make sure that other people are aware of that is something that can happen to anyone, because we're all human. But it's funny now looking back, having enough sleep in the past couple of years, I can enjoy it, but there were moments where I felt like having 2 kids was easier than going to work, because basically those periods were just nuts. Absolutely bonkers. Yeah.
Yeah, especially, I mean, I was here in the financial district in Frankfurt, and I mean, these bankers, they worked hard, but then they also partied hard. Yeah. So,
a lot of the time went into partying. So that doesn't improve your cognitive skills at a certain point.
You come home at 3 a.m, and then the next morning you have to go back to the office. Yeah. And,
or you just went straight to the office and you had your suit hanging there, and it was just 3 times a week.
I remember a consultant, one of the banks, he slept under his desk, the next morning.
Why not? I mean, it makes sense if you want to, if you want to enjoy the 24 hours in a day, then go for it.
This is great learnings. And as you said, we went through this time, but we took a lot of learnings from that and applied this now to our lives. I mean, we both work as mentors, so we pass this on to our clients and companies we work with. And it's important learning. And I mean, often, I don't know how you think, but often I think, hey, these things are so simple, what I teach, but it's not. It's so fundamental, yeah. Having enough sleep. I, for example, got this Oura ring, yeah, which tracks my sleep. It's amazing to see. I mean, what you don't measure, you can't manage, yeah. To see, and there are times when you don't feel right, and you have it documented, and you say, okay, what did you do in the days before? Maybe change a bit of these patterns, and then you're back again. And giving this information to other entrepreneurs is very important because many of them are so locked in their day-to-day activities. They're running their business like in a treadmill, and they forget to take care. And then they pay the price, as you said. I mean, fortunately, I had no one disappearing from my life right now, but I see people who are really struggling and basic things they can avoid.
Yeah, I always like the example of, why do you think in an airplane they always tell you to take care of yourself first before you can take care of others? And most people it's automatic pilot. So it's like, yeah, it's this little show that this person does in front of the plane and whatever, if we're going to go, we're going to go. But that's not necessarily the case because, there's luck involved, as I explained earlier, at least on my end. And whoever says that luck is not part of being successful, okay, that's up to you. But I definitely had a lot of luck in my life to become what I am today. And what I am has nothing to do with the amount of money you earn or whatever. It's the life experience, it's the health, it's the way that you can just operate in a normal way. But in the airplane, the philosophy there is that if you are out of breath, then how are you going to help the person next to you? And if that person next to you is your child or your mother who is older and maybe less able to do so. So your personnel, your talent, the people that you're responsible for, because they only see the success when you have a lot of money or a big car or whatever it is that people measure success with. For me, it's never been about fast cars, big houses. And that's nothing to do with success. Success is that, for me, you can let other people grow and achieve the same things that are their dreams. So if their dream is to make enough money to travel around the world for 3 years without having to worry about, then that is a dream that you can maybe assist people with. And then that is their fortune and that is their thing. And whatever it is for you, it's fine. But the moral of the story always stays the same. If you can't take care of yourself, then you cannot give that example to other people. Then you cannot operate in a way that people can actually excel. Set up for success is no longer than something that you can manage. And then basically everything is a treadmill, and you're basically in the same position as you were at when you were maybe doing a job you didn't like doing. Mental health is super important, and clarity. Who are you? What do you want to do? What do you do not want to do? And if you have that, then basically the rest is common sense. As you said, it's not rocket science. Trust me, if it was, I would not be doing what I was doing today, because I just did not have the brain power to be an astronaut. And that's fine, because we're not all the same. But the simple things in life is where a lot of people try to make shortcuts. And that is just something that I did it as well. Trust me, the first bunch of years of my life. I also tried to, I'm 17, invincible, half a Viking, you know how it all works. Yay, let's go. And then eventually you hit this big wall, and it doesn't need to be. It always comes at a point where you don't need it. I mean, it's with everything in life. If you have 10 million in the bank, you win the lottery, and you think, what's the point? I already have 10 million. If you broke, you get another bill, your car breaks down, it happens. These things, just for some reason, it attracts each other. So I think if you're positive and you're moving forward and you're assisting other people, then to some extent, positive things will happen more often, because that's kind of the way that you try to run certain things. And simple things are really essential to making happen what we do on
simple
a daily
habits,
basis.
no?
It's just simple habits.
Implementing the right habits, step by step, going towards the right direction, which leads you to success. I mean, it also works the other way around. If you implement unhealthy habits, doing it once or twice, it's not a problem. But hey, if you consistently not following up, if you're consistently not working out, if you eat the wrong food, drink too much alcohol, and so on, I mean, we all know this, you end up in a unhealthy position. Yeah.
Oh yes, it is true. It is. But I think change is the hardest for everyone. I think people always want to do things, and then they have these bears on the road, like I need money to be an entrepreneur, I need a website to be visible, or I need this, or you don't need any of that. You just need to focus. You need to understand what you try to achieve. What is the end goal? Work your way back. And that starts with waking up maybe at a certain time of the day, to make sure that you understand what's going on before you hit a market that you want to participate in. If no one has ever told you that at home, like saving money, maybe not 100,000, but maybe 5,000. So if when the washing machine breaks, then at least you can, no, but simple things like that. I mean, how many people don't live from month to month, and the moment their job is gone, it's done. They are not only lost in their daily routine, they're lost in their head because they have nothing to fall back on. And it's with entrepreneurship exactly the same. You will fail 100%. I mean, at some point you will fail at something. It doesn't mean that you will fail in totality, but you will fail at something, or you will walk into things that you are unaware of that, will bite you at some point. But that's the great thing. It's an experience. It's a marathon. It's never a sprint. And I mean, it's not another cliche. It's a fact. I mean, I've tried to do sprints and I'm very bad at it because basically, after 400 meters, you need to dial 112 to pick me up because it's just, I'm not a sprinter. So you need a little bit of time and you need to plan ahead. And I think you need to surround yourself with smart people, healthy people, and then the basics come in again. It's all about common knowledge basics. But again, don't expect everyone to understand them because it's just not reality. Not everyone had that kind of education of simple things.
Yeah, and this is what really is an issue with the school system. Yeah, they don't teach this to the kids. They don't teach this common knowledge, to all these kids in school. And I see this really as a problem. Yeah. And this is why, both obviously have so much work to do because, when you grow up, then you realize, hey, you need different skills and different mindset, and then you have to get it from somewhere else.
It's a beautiful thing. So my parents are not entrepreneurs, far from it. They are coming from a day and age where, you save enough money, you work hard, you put your head down, you grind, and you just show up and do the magic. So for me, growing up in that household was not always easy because they didn't understand why I was the way I was wired. But the good thing is I got all the good stuff from them as well. So you don't run a business based on credit. You don't spend more than you have. And if you do, then you make sure that there is a very clear point in time when that stuff will take your loss. All the normal decencies that you still received in the 80s, in my honest opinion, that kind of watered away in the last 20, 30 years where you just say thank you or, you just show up on time. But so there was this mix for me that I had to break through that barrier. But I'm very happy I had that path and I had to take it. It wasn't always easy, but I had a roof above my head. I had very nice parents and I had a great childhood. But when you are an entrepreneur and when you are young, and internet is just basically getting there for B2C customers, and no one has any clue other than the newspaper that's in front of them, then talking about stuff that people are unaware of gives you a very uneasy childhood because it's just, but the good thing is today I benefit from the education they got in the 60s, 70s and 80s with their experience, but I had the mindset of a millennial. What was weird because basically that still needed to, but it's not. But now I see when I now look at, I'm 39, but when I look at the 22-year-olds, they talk about stuff that I really like, okay. Great, thanks for that. But none of them have the same, this is how it feels, have the same kind of 80 roots and 70, 80 rules where just there is this kind of a common platform and you build on that. It's all based on instant gratification, now, boom, boom, boom. It's just like based on what? You have 4 years experience. How can you be an advisor? To whom? You're 23. How can you teach?
When I started talking about IT, I really learned programming, digging deep into code, and solving a problem for hours. If you said instant gratification, I see this all with my kids. If things don't work, then they move on. And I said, hey, why don't you just look at this problem a bit more deeper, and try to fix it? But it's so complicated,
Giving up is far easier these days than it was back in the day. You just didn't have a choice. And it has nothing to do with being already fortunate enough to have a Dutch passport or a German passport, because that's also something that people always forget. Like, if you're born in Germany or you're born in the Netherlands or any European country, you already have to, but it starts all with understanding that it's not about you alone. You need to work with other people. You need to set, and certain things just don't work out the way you have them in mind. Kea Company, the first 5 years was like screaming in the desert. Everyone was like listening, but no one was doing anything with it because they all felt like, but we just had the economical crisis. And I said, no, that happened in 2008. No, that actually
No,
came
it's still
here
felt.
in 2011, 12, 13.
They still felt it by then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we started in 2010, and that was kind of like, we felt like, oh, this is the perfect time to do it. But I have news for you. It was kind of the worst time to start because it was literally, rippling in towards where we were heading. And since we are fully focused on technology-driven companies, that was kind of a bummer. But the good thing is, after 5 not so fantastic years, you get a lot of back from what you have given and invested time, experience-wise, etc. So again, nothing happens overnight for everyone. Some people are lucky and they get stuff done overnight. But I think in the end, you need to have an expectation that what you do because you like doing it and because it to some extent pays the bills. But you don't immediately need to be, reeking in hundreds of thousands of dollars a month because it's just based on what?
You need mental toughness to stay in the game. Yeah, and it's with most of the businesses. I mean, as you said, some are lucky, they start from scratch. I mean, my first business, I was very lucky, I hit a niche market and boom, it went off. But I also started many other ventures after that and I failed a few. And I mean, this is a normal life, but we always grow, and this is the beautiful thing. We always grow with every challenge we take on. And the next time we can take on another challenge, a bigger challenge,
Yeah, and you do it for yourself as you want to become an entrepreneur. So people don't do it because then other people, when you are successful, think that you've done something tremendous because you've just done something that you really liked doing and you executed on it. But if it goes wrong, why not share that either? Because what are you afraid that other people may think that you're a clown? I mean, it's fine. I experienced it. I have to deal with it. You did not experience that. If you're not in the entrepreneurship game, then thank God for you, you didn't. If you are, it's a very wise lesson. And I'd rather have them early on in my life so I can learn from it, but also hand it over to other people and say, look, you can do whatever you want because it's your experience. It's like me telling my kid, don't skate without a helmet on because daddy tried that, miserably failed 3 times. Trust me, my head is kind of like patched together. But then my wife says, look, yes, he needs to have a helmet on, or yes, she needs to have a helmet on. But if they fall, they will not do it probably again. So, and that's the same with entrepreneurship. So it's not about telling you not to do it. It's about, look, let me give you a little bit of background on how I messed this one up because I also felt that was an amazing idea. But that was mainly because I thought of it myself. And I have news for you. Those things often are very conflicting. And that's what you give back. And that's where people then sometimes think like, yeah, whatever, old man, we're going to do it our way. It's like, okay, go for it. And some people say, look, this actually is not half a bad idea to skip that part and get some folks involved that potentially can assist us with that. Because that's the thing. It is the journey. It is the marathon. And you will need to experience things that will shape you in any shape or form.
I had an interesting conversation with a startup the other day. And they are looking for investors and advisors. And this is a group of really young people, the 20s, and they are full of power, energy, and they want to develop the software to really change the market. And I think, hey, this is amazing. On the other hand, I think, hey, and then my brain kicks in, 25 years experience. You have to look at this, and that. But sometimes you think, would I start it in this way, like they do it now?
It's funny. It's funny because I didn't get everything off the ground I always wanted because I thought too much. And some people just get a lot off the ground because they don't think at all. They just start banging things together and then it just works out. Where I think about what is your target audience? Who are you going to sell this to? What is the actual value that you're bringing to the table? And these folks are like, no, just wait. We'll have this amazing app ready in 6 months from now. We'll work day and night and it will kick ass. And it was like, yeah, but who are you going to sell it to? Don't worry. And we'll figure it out. But it's fascinating. And that's what I love about entrepreneurship. There's not one way to achieve it. But I can tell you that certain things, you are human. Let's put it that way. So certain things you cannot skip. Certain things you cannot hold up because you're not superhuman. You're human. Everyone has a heart. Everyone has blood running through their veins. So, I mean, to a certain point, there's a lot of creativity that you can bring to the table. But as we've discussed earlier on, taking good care of yourself, that doesn't mean running a 10-mile every morning will make you fit or happy or whatever. But thinking about certain things, getting enough sleep, food, etc., will not change the app.
Yeah, but putting a system in place, this is always a system for your business, but also a system for your personal life. where you do things regularly, where you eat the right food, where you work out, etc. Yeah, and if you put it,
Yeah, planning.
you have it,
Yeah.
then
Yeah, but I mean, a lot of people always claim they don't have time. I never understood that because, I mean, you make up your own time, because if other people decide for you what you need to do in that time, then you do not have control over what it is that you're trying to achieve. And then how are you going to be successfsul in entrepreneurship if you can't just plan an hour out a day to take care of yourself, or walk the dog, or just don't do anything, watch the flowers outside. Yeah. Well, yeah.
Hey, these are amazing information and experience from entrepreneurship. Let's talk a little bit about Kea, because I'm really interested exactly what you do. What kind of companies do you work with? I mean, okay, there's big Gartner for the big boys, but you fill a niche market, I understand, tech company. Yeah. So what exactly you're offering?
Yeah, so when I worked at Gartner back in the day, there are a lot of people that communicate with industry research firms to get visibility. Now, there are two ways to work, or there are more ways, but basically there are two ways why most people work with industry research firms like Gartner, Forrester, IDC, and many of the other outstanding firms out there. That is, first of all, to let the analyst understand that you are there, and to let them judge you, benchmark you about, what are you doing, how are you doing it in consideration of your peers in the industry. Or there is the fact that you are missing out on a lot of knowledge in your organization, or you want to go to market in North America, but you're a European firm in the insurance space, and you need insights from people that actually talk to these folks all day long. And that could also be an industry analyst. But what you should not do, in my honest opinion, and what I've witnessed back in the day, is spending hundreds of thousands of euros, dollars, pounds to buy a subscription to only broadcast to the analyst community about how amazing you are, because that's just not going to fly. That's not how the ecosystem works. And this is where I came up with Kea Company, together with two other folks from the industry. And we had a lot of colleagues moving around, going from Gartner to Forrester, working at IDC, working at other firms. We knew each other, we talked to each other, and we all came to the same conclusion. Most SMEs in Europe between 5 and 15 million euro revenue spend a lot of their marketing budget for the wrong reasons with firms like Gartner, Forrester, IDC. And I was like, why would they do that? Because after a year or 2 years, they let go. They don't like working with these places anymore because they got disappointed. But actually, they didn't get disappointed. They got sold the wrong kind of idea when they spoke to an account executive, because he or she should have never sold it for that particular reason, because there are other roads to, achieve that. And so, of course, being an account executive working in England, most of my money went on rent, beer, and happy days. So when I got back to the Netherlands, I still had to perform some form of a job to wheel in enough cash to start this endeavor. So I did work as a consultant, as an advisor. I even worked at a regular company again, not being an entrepreneur, just to make sure that we had enough saved up to actually see if this was going anywhere. And then what we did is, when we launched, we were really all over the place. Actually, the last couple of years, we were really focused on just outsourced analyst relations, what basically means that a technology provider that has a service, B2B, that wants to get on the radar screen of industry analysts, we support them by getting them in front of the right people that matter to them, that speak to their core audience on the buy side. That could mean that you have a CRM system that is very focused on healthcare, and you're competing against a bunch of other folks out there, but you want to have that independent view on, am I actually doing something special here? Do we just think ourselves that we're special? And can we let people judge what we do, how we do it? And then they can, down the line, if they get enough information from us, if they get enough trust and technical roadmaps and business roadmaps, and we actually achieve them, they can then start informing their buy-side customers when they have the question about, hey, we need a new CRM, we are in the healthcare space, who should we look at? Then you are part of a shortlist. And in enterprise sales, that is super important, because marketing goes a long way, sales goes a long way. With independent analyst is 50 to 70% of the job. Because if you're not on the shortlist, then you probably missed out already. And it's not always relevant if you're mentioned in the research, but at least the people that influence the buying behavior of your potential prospects, they need to be aware of you. They need to understand that you exist, so that they can say, look, I fully understand where you're coming from. I think you should have a chat with these folks as well. They're not part of the research, but they do have a niche. They do have something that could be very valuable of you. It's not our recommendation that you buy them. It's our recommendation that you speak to them based upon the knowledge we have. So off you go. And that's basically what we do. And we work with companies from 1 million revenue that just basically got founded up to the UI paths of the world that are multi-billion dollar organizations. And so it depends on your needs. Our sweet spot is you are a CMO or you are head of strategy. You want to have visibility with your product, service, and company with the right analyst. We do everything for you. Apart from selling your company, you need to do that yourself, up to a point where we are an extension of your existing analyst relations team, and we take care of a vertical for your business, or we help you project manage Magic Quadrant, Forrester Waves, IDC scopes. So the RFI, RFP projects, manage teams, getting the information with the research firms back on time. All of the good stuff. Yeah, in a nutshell, basically.
You see a lot of companies who could really benefit from what you do. Yeah, because seeing the big boys, the Gartners, you would, in the size 1 million to, 10, 15, you would never think about approaching them probably.
It is tricky. Now, you can have a relationship with Gartner and it can work out all fine, but we're not charging 100,000 euros a year to get you on the radar screen of industry analysts. You also do not have to pay the 100K up front. And I don't want to say that everything is 100K at Gartner, Forrester, or IDC, but they are not built for small companies that have limited budget. It's just not the case. And so by taking our approach for a fraction of that investment, you will get the traction. It's a long game. Analyst relations is a relationship-driven business. So it's not something you do for 3 months and then something comes out of it. It can happen that you are at the right time with the analysts that are writing something about your core business that they figure out, hey, I've not seen this before. This is actually something I need to address. Of course, we see that all the time as well, but it's not realistic. It's also not realistic if you are competing against Salesforce or Oracle or Microsoft that you are now part of the Magic Quadrant when we discuss Gartner, because your revenue is not up there. So you are not measuring yourself with, you do not have global reach. You do not have global implementation partners. You do not have a global sales network. So everything needs to be put into perspective, but in the end, it's very simple. There are maybe 50 analysts worldwide that really understand robotic process automation. And if you have a company that assists people with implementing or offering robotic process automation, you want to make sure that those 50 people are aware of what you do on a regular basis, so that when any of the hundreds of thousands of people that have subscriptions and read their research and talk to them are aware of that there is a company out there that could potentially assist them with that as well. And it doesn't need to be Capgemini or Infosys or Wipro or any of the other big players out there. It could be you as well. It depends. And that's it. If you don't do it, for a fact nothing is going to happen. If you do it, there's only going to be upside.
Interesting. Where do you see the industry going? Looking ahead 4 or 5 years?
Yeah, I think that what you see when you look at B2C, e-commerce, there's a lot happening with what do other people say. And so it's no longer depending on just 50 people talking about RPA, as an example, but it's also about the 150,000 peers that have implemented RPA or have bought an RPA product. And they're now writing about that via peer-to-peer review websites. The G2s of these worlds, the peer review websites. There are many of those. They pop up left, right, and center. But you see that there is more and more need for people to read experiences of other peers in the industry. So I think there is already a shift coming to some extent due to COVID-19. Analysts were unable to, call the whole world because everyone was already, occupied with doing Zoom calls all day long. And there's more and more research firms going out there and say, look, make sure that you have enough references that followed this process on this specific website, so we can dive in there as well to look at references instead of us having to call your top 10 customers that have been briefed very nicely upfront about how amazing you are. So there is a shift coming on that end. And I also think that there is more and more need for shortlists because there is so much noise out there.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. What is true these days? As a marketeer, you can do a lot of nice stuff with a small budget. You can scream very loud and you can be heard, but what is the reality when you buy the product or service that you're marketing out there. So I think this is not going to change. I mean, the research industry is going to be very much out there also in the next 5 years. And it's going to be more and more focused on quality references. And are you actually capable of doing what you claim that you're doing? But now we know for a fact that you are able to do that. But you need to take that route, because if you don't, then you're automatically not benchmarking yourself, and you're automatically not actually fully understanding what your competition is doing. So it has pluses, but it can also shatter dreams. I have had analyst calls, 6-7 analyst calls with different firms. They all said the same about a certain provider. Said, look, I don't know why you guys think this is such amazing technology, but you are like 4 years behind. No, this is amazing. This is good. So it can go both ways, but it's good, because then you either can change it, or you can just, put some expectation management out there for yourself that this is never going to be one of the many unicorns out there. But doesn't need to be a unicorn all day long.
No,
I don't think
exactly.
so.
Not every startup needs to become a unicorn.
No. No.
Hey, Bram, thank you so much. It was a very interesting discussion. We talked more about entrepreneurship, about mental health, about taking care of yourself, which I really enjoyed and I like, because this is also what I teach a lot. Interesting story, interesting service you're offering for smaller tech companies. It's really worth looking at the offering. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
It's been amazing. And
my pleasure.
I'm sure we will be in touch.
Absolutely.